This week on Wildcat News, we discover why we have a food pantry.
The new bus safety regulations are addressed.
And students and teachers prepare for winter weather.
All these stories and more coming up because Wildcat News starts now.
Good morning, West Johnston. I'm Brody Hall.
And I'm Ariel Andrews. Last week, Erik Beene shared the effects of food insecurity. This week, he highlights what students are doing about it.
Food insecurity in our community prompted the Do Something Club to open the school district's first food pantry in February of this year. The pantry is not only just for students, it's widely used by members of the community, serving 196 people last month alone.
If you're hungry, you can just come and you provide some type of identification that you live in the Cleveland area. But there really is no pre-qualification other than we know that you live in the Cleveland area.
The pantry is run by student volunteers and is open on Wednesdays throughout the year.
I really enjoy volunteering at the food pantry because it's not just a place where we're volunteering and then we leave and then we forget about it. We form bonds with the people that come here. They know who we are. We know who they are.
The food pantry helps fill the gap for students that don't have food at home. The federal lunch program only provides meals during the school day, leaving students without a reliable way to get food during the evenings and weekends.
One of the benefits that the food pantry provides for our students is that it's local, right here on their own campus. It's convenient. They can shop for themselves and they can also shop for their families.
However, some students are worried about other students knowing their financial situation.
I would tell them that it's not a big deal. We're really confidential. There are students already that come here and we don't make a big deal about it. We just talk to them like they're adults.
When they come here, it's never spoken of. It's one of the things that we do when we train students who work at the food pantry, that this is a completely private situation. It's never to be discussed. It's not something that they share.
For Henry, helping others has helped her give thanks for her life and good fortune.
It's a really rewarding feeling. You get to see immediate impacts that you have in the community because these people keep coming back and they tell you how much that you're helping them and how much it's like making a difference in their lives and what they're able to do because of the food they get here. And it's really humbling because you never really think that people go without food until you hear the stories of the people that come and shop here. It really makes you appreciate things that you have more.
I'm Erik Beene, Wildcat News.
Thanks, Erik.
Many students travel to and from school on the bus. Kemp discovers the procedures that come with a new law in regards to bus safety.
Starting the school year, North Carolina required new bus safety laws to be enforced. Bus driver RENEE Moore shares why the laws were put in place.
I believe they made it a state law for safety reasons. A lot of people do not stop for the stop arm. They either don't see it or they're distracted by whatever means.
Moore describes the procedures of the new law.
We have to stop 15 feet short of their stop. Then we have to put the bus in neutral and pull the parking brake. Then we have to check the traffic again, activate the red lights, and open the door. When the doors are open, then I have to remind the students to look to me so that I can cross them.
Sophomore GABE TRIMPE shares his opinion on the law.
I can understand why it would be for kids of underage, because they're not as responsible as high schoolers, but I, for one, would feel that I'm responsible enough to cross the street on my own. I feel like if they were to keep it, it should stay definitely in middle school and elementary school, but high schools shouldn't be required.
Moore shares what happens if the students do not follow their procedures.
If they don't follow the rules, we'll remind them and they get a warning, and then anytime they do not follow the rules, we have to write them up. Some of us feel that in doing this, that it puts a little bit more on us if something were to happen, that, it would be on us to make sure that they followed the hand signals so that they didn't get hurt.
I'm Ray Kemp, Wildcat News.
Thanks, Ray. Teachers deal with over 90 students a day and hundreds of papers. This raises the question, why become a teacher?
Whether students like it or not, teachers play a large part in their lives. But many students never take the time to ask why they chose the profession in the first place.
I became a teacher because I realized that I had the ability to take ideas and change the way that it is being presented in such a way to get the point across.
The main reason that I became a teacher is that I really wanted to change the world. I think most of us, when we are young, we have a vision of doing something that will impact the world. But I really thought that if I could have one student really learn to love English, that they could use the language better and be better citizens too.
Art was a way for me to just step back and breathe. I wanted to give students that same opportunity to have a class where they could go, that they could just take a step back from high school or any stresses that they were having in their life and just relax.
Teaching is a career drawn to by many, but is not for everyone.
Just teaching is not something that you really just do as a job. It's something that a person feels called to do, to work with young people, to help them become the best they can be and all they can be. I often compare teachers with ministers in that teaching is a calling. It's both a vocation and an avocation.
Teaching has its difficulties, but at the end of the day proves to be worth it for some.
There are those days where the student comes up to you and says, "You really made a difference." And then there are those days where the teacher has that, the students seem to be all running amok, and you go home and ask yourself, why am I doing this? You learn to cherish the good days, and you learn to try to forget the bad days. But I think as a teacher, the good points outweigh the bad points. At the end of the day, it is the ones that you helped that stick with you.
Now over to Jamie Snover with the rundown.
I'm Jamie Snover and welcome to the Rundown. Here's the last week's scores. Last Monday, wrestling won 44-36 against Triple S. Last Tuesday, JV girls basketball lost 22-30 against Corinth Holders. JV boys lost 35-50, varsity girls lost 41-48, and varsity boys lost 32-73. Wednesday, the swim team placed third in a meet against Broughton and Knightdale. And finally, Friday, JV girls basketball lost 20-21 against Cleveland. JV boys lost 43-70, varsity girls lost 36-55, and varsity boys lost 32-78. Here's a look at the game of the week.
Last Wednesday, the swim team hosted a meet against Knightdale and Broughton at Schrack. Here are some of the highlights. Cole Carlson placed first in the 50-yard freestyle in 24 seconds. Cody Davis placed third in the 200-yard freestyle in 2 minutes and 33 seconds. Noah Stevenson placed third in the 100-yard freestyle in 1 minute and 6 seconds. Juliana Lee placed third in the 200-yard individual medley in 2 minutes and 54 seconds.
Last Thursday, the annual Fall Sports Banquet was hosted in the cafeteria. Ariel Andrews speaks with the coaches to find out how MVPs are chosen.
Cross-country coach Patrick Shaw gives a coach's point of view.
Well, when you say MVP, most valuable player, most valuable performer, for us, most valuable runner, there's a lot of ways to think about that. I think that obviously they need to be somebody that is being encouraging to others, but they also have to be a good performer. They have to be one of the best people on your team. Doesn't cut corners, trains, even on the weekends when we don't have practice, goes above and beyond. And a person that's, not afraid to fail, because the only way you learn how to be successful and how to win is failing. And eventually, if you do that enough, you're gonna do well.
Freshman Jessica Reese, MVP for women's tennis, tells what she thinks coaches look for when choosing MVPs and what qualities she herself displayed.
I think that the qualities they use to choose the MVP is that just being loyal to the team, always showing up to practices, being there to support your teammates at games, playing your hardest, having a good record. I think the qualities that I had to get MVP was that I was always honest to Fisher, I was always at practices, always wanted to play, and had a good attitude towards it.
The process is not always easy for the coaches.
Defining an MVP is hard. I mean, especially when you have a lot of kids that you feel like are worthy of that. So at that point, it is very difficult to pick an MVP because you don't want to slight one, for the other, because they're very deserving. You can have all the talent in the world, but if you're not reliable and you're not there when we need you to be there, I don't think you can call yourself an MVP.
Reese gives strong advice to athletes who aspire to be the MVP.
Just, go out and have fun and strive to be better.
I'm Ariel Andrews, Wildcat News.
Thanks, Ariel. Basketball is home on Tuesday and away on Wednesday and Friday. Wrestling is away on Wednesday and Saturday. Come out and support all your winter athletes. I'm Jamie Snover, and that's your week's rundown.
Thanks, Jamie.
Although we aren't having a white Christmas, Nik Reasor prepares for winter weather.
Winter is coming, whether we are ready or not. Weather such as snow, freezing rain, or sleet is often dangerous.
Winter weather is going to have a lot of different effects. Transportation becomes a really big issue when we have winter weather advisories. A lot of people are going to freak out and run to the store and buy their bread and milk and eggs because apparently everyone has to have French toast when it snows. And you're going to see a lot of traffic issues as a result of that.
There are numerous threats during winter weather, but ARP explains that some weather effects are worse than others.
By far, the most dangerous thing about winter weather is going to be black ice. When it snows, you're able to see that nice layer of white fluffy snow. And when there's an initial layer of ice, you're initially able to see that. But in the daytime, that ice is going to melt, and when it refreezes on the roads, you're not going to be able to see that. And so if you hit a patch of that black ice, it's not going to look any different than kind of the wet road around it. And it's going to be really dangerous because your car is going to completely lose traction. If you're driving and you're out and there is a threat of black ice, particularly at night, you always want to make sure that you're driving very slow. If you're driving and you hit a patch of black ice, you don't want to try to recorrect your car too much because that can end up causing more problems. But if you're traveling a lot slower than you normally would be, then it's a lot easier for you to get over that.
Not all states experience the same kinds of winter, though. Gavin Brundage originally lived in New York, a place where winter hits hard.
There's not really as much snow as there is down here. I don't know if what we have here is you should call that snow compared to up there, but we have ice and mush, but up in New York it's actually real snow. But one time when I was younger, we were up in New York. My mom was coming home picking me up from daycare, and we were driving on a snowy road, and she spun around like 3 times. And I remember that because I was reading an I Spy book, and we just kept spinning, and then we hit the ditch, and nobody was hurt, so it was okay. But that's one of the biggest memories I remember of snow and up in New York.
I'm Nik Reasor, Wildcat News.
Well, that's all for us this week. If you have any comments, questions, or story leads, email us at wjstudentmedia@gmail.com or send us a tweet at wjstudentmedia.
And if you want to watch Wildcat News at home, on the go, or catch up on a past episode, go to wjstudentmedia.com or subscribe to our YouTube channel. I'm Ariel Andrews.
And I'm Brody Hall. Thanks for watching and have a great rest of the week.